Are you afraid that if you unmuted the mics, the debate would be worse for Mr. Trump?
Yes.
Well, President Trump is going to be fine regardless of what the format is.
So why are they saying no to it then? Like, what kind of a stupid answer? I mean, like, it's your team saying no to it. Trump has made a massive pivot on his rally on healthcare. By the way, he said he will protect IVF treatments and have them paid for by the government or insurance companies if elected. Beyond that, he's also, I think, talked about like the Florida ban or something. Am I crazy? Trump Dems on.
He just made some remarks about it. What do you say?
Yeah, we've heard some of these remarks before. For starters, he's been making remarks in central Michigan. That's where he started a lot of the day today. As we understand, he just finished up some of those remarks. A lot of similar lines of it that we've heard from him against Democrats, railing against them, but also specifically on, as you mentioned, take a listen to some of what he said.
The real problem and the real radicals on that issue are the Democrats, where you can have it in the 9th month, and in 6 states, you're allowed to kill the baby after the baby is born. And you know, one of those states is Minnesota, where this tampon Tim comes from.
Now, it goes without saying, there is no state that is passing or has passed any law that allows anybody to kill a baby after it has been born. But we have seen that line of repeatedly from the former president, and it has come with repeated fact checks from CNN, but it gives sort of insight into how he's framing what will be a critical issue over the course of this election. We saw how it motivated voters over the 2022 midterms, for example, in states like Michigan and Wisconsin, where we are now. We spoke to many voters who were fired up about that particular issue, and in particular reproductive rights. And so hearing that line of, we'll watch if that continues when he makes his way here to western Wisconsin. That's where we are now in La Crosse, Wisconsin. But again, it gives an indication into sort of the themes that he is playing out, using over the course of these campaign speeches.
Yeah, both these candidates know how critical that issue is to their voters, to their bases. Omar, this will be Trump's first visit to Wisconsin since the Republican National Convention. What are you hearing about what we can expect tonight?
Well, one thing that we do know, just for context, is Wisconsin and Michigan, where he's leaving now, they were all states that he won in 2016, but then states that Joe Biden was able to win in 2020. And that win, especially in Wisconsin, was by the slightest of margins. So coming here to Wisconsin, first visit, as you mentioned, since the RNC, to cement himself, if he hasn't already, among the supporters that we've seen come from all over this portion of the Midwest. For perspective, we're essentially on the border of Wisconsin and Minnesota right now. So not everybody is coming from Wisconsin to this particular rally. And this area, this county, is one that Joe Biden took by a sizable margin. Regardless, a lot of people have showed up to see what the president has to say, and what we expect to take place in a town hall type of format, moderated by Tulsi Gabbard. Obviously, she ran for president as a Democrat years back, now identifies as an independent, and has already endorsed the former president as well. So we'll see how that actually plans out. We see the stage already behind us set up for clearly a conversation between two people, and potentially others being brought in as well. When I spoke to one Trump voter outside of the rally prior to coming in here, he said that he drove in from southern Illinois and has been trying to go to as many events as possible. And one of the things he said was he was excited because he felt like Trump was taking on the quote-unquote left. We'll see if those themes play out in his speaking here.
Yeah, we know you'll keep us posted on what he says. Omar Jimenez at the Trump event in Wisconsin. Thank you very much, Omar. Coming up, the Army now says an Arlington National Cemetery staffer was, quote, abruptly pushed aside during a dispute with the Trump campaign. The latest next. You're in the Situation Room.
Here, we're gonna talk about the NBC sound bites that he gave. Okay, it's pretty big. A couple that are pretty solid. Okay, here it is. Donald Trump says 6 weeks in Florida is too short.
If you overturn Roe and you want it to be a states' rights issue in Florida, the state that you are a resident of, there's a related amendment on the ballot to overturn the 6-week ban in Florida. How are you going to vote on that?
Well, I think the 6 week is too short. It has to be more time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
So you'll vote in favor of the amendment?
I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. Look, just so you understand, everybody wanted Roe v. Wade terminated for years, 52 years. I got it done. They wanted it to go back to the states. Exceptions are very important for me, for Ronald Reagan, for others that have navigated this very, very interesting and difficult path.
You overturned.
I say, here's an issue that the Dems have actively campaigned on alongside Project 2025. By the way, fun reminder for Democrats running scared, they didn't want to campaign on it originally. This is something that has been memory hold, and a lot of people are now going to tell me I'm wrong for saying this. Democrats, with obviously Joe Biden at the top of the ticket, he was already always a bad communicator on it, but they literally were like, oh, maybe let's not talk about it until they were forced to. So they reluctantly started campaigning on it, understandably so, because it became a massive issue, right? Same with Project 2025. Notice how Trump has to pivot to the center on this issue. Notice how Trump has to pivot to the center. Now imagine that for any other progressive policy that Dems could be campaigning on. Also, do you believe him? Will voters believe Harris on the border? Now that part is also important, because do you think voters are going to be like, well, that's my president, he's right, I actually am voting for Donald Trump on the issue of course not. Of course not. Just like voters who have made up their minds about like immigrants doing mass and whatnot are already voting for the Republican Party. All you do when you run on immigration as a right-winger, okay, or a right-wing border bill as a Democrat is you're basically priming your base to be more reactionary to that sort of thing, okay? This clip will be viewed by Republican voters as a letdown, just as Harris in the center is viewed by progressives as a letdown too. Ultimately, they're both now tacking to the center on their weak points in an effort to win votes. I think it's a bad move, but that's the theory at least. First of all, I didn't say Trump is doing this to win votes. I said the exact same thing. You're literally agreeing with me, okay? You are agreeing with me. My point is that when Trump tacks to the center, he's forced to tack to the center on it because Democrats have been actively campaigning on it, okay? Ultimately, it doesn't matter though, because obviously his base has already made up their minds on Trump regardless, just like the base has made up their minds on immigration. My point is, Democrats should stick to issues and force the Republicans to negatively campaign against it or actively talk on issues so that they can turn around, so that the Republicans can turn around and tack to the center on it. Okay? How do you prevent massive Zyn addiction? I don't. I have it. Did you watch the video of Bernie Sanders and Hasan about? No, I haven't. And I will not. I refuse to. How about that? Here's another issue that Trump is trying to win favor on.
IVF has been an issue that has become political. A lot of people talking about it. What's the Trump administration going to do when it comes to IVF if you get elected?
Right. Well, as you know, I was always for IVF right from the beginning. As soon as we heard about it, it's fertilization and it's helping women and men and families, but it's helping women able to have a baby. Some have great difficulty, and a lot of them have been very happy with the results, as you know, and what we're doing. And we're doing this because we just think it's great, and we need great children, beautiful children in our country. We actually need them. And we are going to be, under the Trump administration, we are going to be paying for that treatment. So we are paying for that treatment.
All Americans who want it?
For all Americans that get it, all Americans that need it. So we're going to be paying for that treatment. Or we're going to be mandating that the insurance company pay.
IVF has been an issue that has become political.
There you go. Top Ukrainian pilot, moonfish in U.S.-made F-16. How the do we know like the names of top Ukrainian pilots? And that's crazy. Okay.
All right, welcome back. Donald Trump, Kamala Harris set to debate on ABC for the first time September 10th. But how the debate will look, still up in the air. Both campaigns have been accusing each other of not agreeing to certain rules. This week, Donald Trump suggested he was open to some changes from the rules that were set for the CNN debate.
Would you want the microphones muted in the debate whenever you're not speaking?
We agreed to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on, but the agreement was that it would be the same.
What's your vote? Or what's your opinion on Ukraine-Palestine? Someone asked. On Ukraine, would you keep sending weapons? I want the same exact thing that I want for, which is a ceasefire, okay? A permanent end to hostilities. That's it.
As it was last time. In that case, it was muted. I didn't like it the last time, but it worked out fine.
Now a spokesman for the Harris campaign tells CNN that both candidates agreed on leaving the mics unmuted.
Our preference, along with Donald Trump himself, is for unmuted microphones. I think the question that you'd have to ask is to Donald Trump and his team, are they in agreement between themselves on how we should approach this debate? Because we are in agreement with Donald Trump that these should be live and unmuted microphones.
All right, joining us now is Jason Miller. He's the senior advisor to the Trump campaign. Jason, welcome back to CNN this morning. Thank you so much for being here. Why do you want the mics muted?
Well, we've already agreed to the rules that we had with the CNN debate, and not only have we agreed, but the Harris camp has agreed as well. We had the rules last week. Both sides agreed that we would stay with the CNN format, which I thought both Jake and Dana did an excellent job. I think CNN as a network did a very good job, very fair job with the debate, and we hope that there's the same.
Don't you think the arms embargo should stay in effect until Israel is dissolved? Why would we lift it if they agree to a ceasefire? They could just stock up and start the thing again. We cannot let up. Bro, you're talking like we already got it through. Okay, how about we cross that bridge when we even see a bridge? Okay, what do you mean, dude? That is crazy. Yeah, dude, I personally think we should keep protesting until Kamala Harris personally jails Benjamin Netanyahu, like goes to Israel and puts handcuffs on Benjamin Netanyahu. Like, what are you talking about? Okay, like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And no, you shouldn't stop protesting until the Israeli is dissolved. I agree. But, you know, let's take it one step at a time, don't you think? Because it doesn't seem like, what? I think you're being unfair by calling Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party's focus on the border as reactionary rhetoric because the median American voter has genuine concerns about immigration, just like how the chatters who aren't subscribed, they're concerned about ads at the top of the hour. I got owned because of a gray name, dude. I saw a gray name. I saw Kamala Harris. I saw criticisms. He got you at your lowest? I did. I am at my lowest currently. I was so primed. I was primed and ready to go. Also, that chatter is like outflanking, which is funny. Like, anyway, the other chatter, I mean, that I was reading, that I was responding to. Anyway, here's the 3-minute ad break now, chat. Pack it up. You're washed. I am. Also, Ezio Fattitore, thank you for the 20 gifted subs, allowing 20 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour, which I'm running right now. You too can avoid it. Twitch Primes are free. Hold on. Let's continue with this.
Performance on ABC's end. But then, strangely, over the weekend, the Harris camp decided to change their minds and want to try to make an issue out of the already agreed to format. And Casey, I think really what was going on, I think is a bit more sinister. I think that the Harris camp was trying to come up with a distraction on the 3rd anniversary of the horrific of 13 Americans at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan. Of course, Kamala Harris was the last one in the room for that decision with Joe Biden. And I think that that's what this was all about. They wanted to distract away from Kamala Harris's accountability on that issue because both sides had already agreed. We've agreed again. Rules are locked in. They're the same as it was for CNN.
Are you afraid that if you unmuted the mics, the debate would be worse for Mr. Trump?
Yes.
Well, President Trump is going to be fine regardless of what the format is.
So why are they saying no to it then? Like, what kind of a stupid answer? I mean, like, it's your team saying no to it. Obviously, if he didn't think it was an issue, he would not have, or at least his campaign would not be like running on making sure it doesn't happen.
But it's already locked in. That's the whole point, is that it was agreed to, the same as it was for CNN, the same as it will be for ABC. And both camps had already agreed to this. In fact, the Harris camp came back with a whole host of other changes that they wanted. But let's...
Why are libs not giving Trump credit? They're not. They're dancing. They're flexing. Okay? They're flexing. Liberals are not giving Trump credit. Liberals, due to Republican competence on the issue, have basically lucked into a very unpopular policy that Donald Trump is unfortunately an advocate of. Okay, unfortunately for him. So they know that it is deeply unpopular. They're flexing. They're flexing that he has to capitulate to the progressive message on this issue. It's the reverse of Kamala Harris on the border. Do you think it would be productive for the Harris camp to go full mode and call him a flip-flopper on to get votes? I don't think that they should say that he's a flip-flopper or anything like that. I think they should just, because that calls into question Kamala Harris flip-flopping on a lot more issues. So in this situation, I think the smart thing to do is just be like, do you believe him? Do you believe him? He ran on fucking, taking out. He successfully did it. Do you believe him when he says now that he is going to protect it? Of course not. He's responsible for it. He's a liar. That's it. Just like that's precisely what the Republicans should say about Kamala Harris on the issue of the border wall. Here's the protester, by the way. Why would you not want to change your policy based on popular issues? I'm losing my mind, dude. This is like baby brain. Dog, do you think Donald Trump is changing his mind on? Are you insane? Badass. He says he is. Why the would you believe him? Like, I don't believe Kamala Harris when she says she's working tirelessly around the clock alongside Joe Biden to get a ceasefire deal. You know, I don't understand how they are so ready, so primed. Yeah. It's additionally funny because his 3 Supreme Court appointments literally also lied to the American public that they wouldn't overturn Roe v. Wade. And then they did it. So
we are fighting for a democracy. Everyone has a right and should have their voices heard. I am speaking now, but on the subject, I will say this.
Some of your thoughts on this are already super known, but do you think that Project 2025 is worth worrying about? Yes and no. Yes, because it's already happening. And no, because it's already happening. Project 2025 is simply a continuation of the Republican Party's agenda since the 90s in terms of beefing up the executive and sidestepping the legislative body, utilizing the courts in an effort to enact their dangerous agendas, and also additionally carving out the federal regulatory agencies. It is not a new thing. It's Project 2024. It's Project 2023. It was Project 2016. Project 2025 is like a magnet for attention because, you know, shouts out to the independent media out there that, you know, YouTubers and TikTokers actually got really invested in this. And then the campaign lucked into a successful narrative. Okay. But overall, it's no different than what the Republicans have done and will continue to do. But yeah, it's easy name recognition and association for liberals.
So now she has seen the way that laws are built in this country. And so that has had an immense impact in how she views it today. Ultimately, though, I think that idea of these values that we hear from her, right, they go into the larger point, which is that this campaign doesn't necessarily see the need to put percentage by percentage, point by point policy.
Is it woke, but for Dems? No, because woke is a catch-all term for like actually good things that could be happening, but the Democrats don't actually really follow through on. Okay, like diversity or I don't know, helping underserved communities or whatever. Maybe scaling back on police brutality a little bit, taking away some of these expansive police budgets and reappropriating it back to social safety nets that actually would cut crime. Things that the Democrats don't actually do. Whereas Project 2025 is things that the Republicans are doing, and they are bad. Okay. Also has a full list of every single political appointment in the administrative state and appropriate person to replace political appointment. I know. The only expansion on like the overarching Republican agenda is that they directly are gutting the regulatory bodies
to create policies that are inclusive of multiple ideologies. And I think that that's the lane that she has decided to take. But also that when you're running in a primary, you run very differently than when you're running in a general. She was in a primary that included some of the likes of the far left, as well as many moderates, as well as some people who may not even consider Democrats at this point. And I'm thinking of folks like Tulsi Gabbard. That was
it's just funny to think of because like Trump already did that, by the way, when he was in office.
America has not ever seen run an extremely truncated campaign, but also she is admitting that her ideas have changed to a certain extent, but her values have not. And she's
I think it's really interesting that there's not a single actually progressive panelist ever on any of these. They'll have right-wingers on to talk about how wonderful it is that Kamala is, you know, going towards the middle. They'll have right-wingers on to say Kamala Harris is fake and phony in terms of going to the middle. They'll never have like an actual leftist on any of these goddamn panels. Much to think about. Do we not think that it's an actual voter block? Do we not think that these are opinions that Americans might have? Doesn't matter. Does not matter. You will never hear from an actual progressive on any of these goddamn panels. Okay? There's not a single progressive that ever offers commentary on this. It could be unique. It could shake things up a little bit. Really interesting though, that there's never any assessment, any like truly progressive analyst being like, maybe we shouldn't tack to the center on this.
Where she was very fair to me, Dana Bash, very fair to me. And people just want to see if she can get through the interview. Nobody knows what's going on. I've done so many interviews in the last couple of months. Every time I go out, I have an interview. I have people, reporters, and we talk to them. And they ask me every question in the book, and we answer them. And you don't see any scandals brewing, nothing. We answer them properly. You have to, as president, you have to be able to deal. You're dealing with the toughest, smartest, most ruthless people in the world. If you can't do an interview, we got the wrong person. To get more relief to working class citizens and seniors on fixed incomes.
Melissa Farrah-Griffin, we've heard Trump time and time again saying that Harris hasn't sat down for an interview, that she's not smart enough. Now she has done this, and we know that Dana has pressed her on a bunch of different issues. What are your thoughts on what he just said?
Well, first, I'm dying to know how hot it is in Michigan today. Because
put this distraction aside, this is about Kamala Harris finally being held accountable. She can't be talking about the future when she's the one who created the nightmare that we're currently living in. She created the problems with our economy, our border, the global chaos, and you can't be asking for a promotion when really voters should be voting you out of office.
Jason, I also want to ask you about something else that we saw from your boss, Mr. Trump. He posted a pretty crude, reposted a pretty crude image or comment, I should say, about Kamala Harris, the sitting vice president. It also mentioned Hillary Clinton, who, of course, Mr. Trump ran against in 2016. What would you say to the vice president of the United States about the comment that he reposted?
Well, I saw the social media post. I have not discussed that with the president. I don't know if the president even saw the comment that was on there or simply the picture. But I would say with regard to Kamala Harris, that had been levied by Kamala Harris's, both the campaign, by Harris allies against President Trump, not just recently, but over the past year and a half, 2 years, ever since he came down the escalator, quite frankly, in the case of many left of center people, have been quite horrific. All of this, though, Casey, is a distraction that are going on right now.
What was reposted? I mean, I mean,
100 times worse, Casey, 100 times worse. And here's the thing. There's social media posts.
But they haven't been
talking
sexual
about
in nature in this way.
Again, I haven't discussed that with the president. I don't know if the president even saw the comment that was on there. That's not something that I have asked. But we have real people who are struggling with inflation that is hurting this country, with the border crisis. President Trump was just at the border this past week, honoring those who've been by this migrant invasion. Jocelyn Nungri and Rachel Moore and Laken Riley.
The way I interpret it, if 22% think striking the right balance, 20% say not enough support, and 30% say too much support, then on average, U.S. policy should probably tend to reflect more towards too much support, aka pullback condition support. But you wouldn't guess that from the headline, manufacturing consent. Yeah. That's crazy that they all convinced on anything, bro. Holy
Riley, three names I do not hear, I do not believe we'll hear from Kamala Harris at the debate on the 10th. That's assuming that Kamala Harris shows up to the debate, which I imagine that she will, because Americans deserve to hear why Kamala Harris has been in hiding for 39 days. Of course, we'll hear from Kamala Harris and Tim Walz when they sit down with Dana to air this evening on CNN. And look, Dana's one of the best in the business, if not the best in the business. I don't think Dana will allow Kamala Harris to hide behind Tim Walz. I think Dana will ask Kamala Harris why she thinks she deserves a promotion and why she hasn't done any of the things over the past 3.5 years that she says that she'll do in the future.
Jason, before I let you go, I want to ask you about one other issue, one story that there was a Politico story about a new book that's set to be published next week from your boss, the former president, that says that Mark Zuckerberg, the head of Meta, plotted against him during the 2020 election, and that the Meta chief executive would, quote, spend the rest of his life in, end quote. We also, of course, saw Zuckerberg send a letter to Congress expressing regret about some of the things Facebook did during the last election around misinformation. Does the former president feel this way about Mark Zuckerberg? Does he believe that he should go to jail?
Well, President Trump certainly had a right to be angry at the time, and especially looking back at the censorship that went on in 2020. I mean, they used this guise of Russian misinformation to outright censor a story that turned out to be very true with the Hunter Biden laptop. And it did manipulate the election. In fact, a post-election study for the Media Research Center said that 1 out of every 7 Biden voter would have looked to go a different way, possibly to President Trump, if they knew about the truth of the foreign business dealings and everything else on Hunter Biden's laptop.
Wait, what do you mean foreign business dealings on the laptop? Like, yeah, the laptop isn't Russian disinformation, but that doesn't mean that there was foreign business dealings in terms of Biden. What do you mean, dude? You can't do that. You can't just like sneak that in there. 1 out of 7 Biden voter would have actually voted against Biden if they found out that Hunter Biden was actually doing crack with Joe Biden right there, doing crack with him, and Xi Jinping. It's like, okay, well, yeah, that would be crazy if that was real, but you just added that on there. That's not what happened. That's crazy. Great. It's Hasan talking with his mouth full of clog. Yeah, dude, I'm sorry. You know, I give you 8 hours of unlimited, uninterrupted news coverage. And in that 8-hour time frame, I'm going to eat one time, you know, suck my, okay? How about you keep eating my ass? Imagine complaining about this. Like, what do you want me to do, man? Die? How about you shut the f up?
Specific to Joe Biden and the international.
And is this a jail in your view, in the former president's view?
I'm not a lawyer. I'll leave that up to the lawyers to go and decide on that. But I do think that there was blatant election interference, and there should be some accountability to that. It can't just be a talking point from the left. People have to be held responsible, especially those 51 intelligence officers, for intentionally, very specifically, knowing that that was a lie and pushing this Russian disinformation hoax. But again, the important thing here is it's not back in 2020. We're talking about the future, but a future where we're going to have record low inflation, a secure border. We're not going to have these popping up everywhere. And that's where I think the difference is in this campaign, is that President Trump's going to put more money back in people's pockets, but he's telling them exactly how he's going to do it. We don't know from Kamala Harris. Maybe we'll find out from Dana tonight how she's going to pay for any of her plans.
All right. Jason Miller.
Bro, she asked you Trump would jail Mark Zuckerberg.
Models and social influencers in Europe have had their identities stolen in an attempt to influence the U.S. presidential election. Dozens of them have discovered that their images have been used and in some cases manipulated to promote Donald Trump's re-election bid with fake MAGA accounts. CNN investigative reporter Katie Polglaze shares the story.
That's awesome.
Debbie is heading home from work in Luxembourg, Northern Europe. Crossing the border into Germany, she races back to her son. And of course, Lou. But Debbie's day doesn't end there. She's also a professional model. Her image, not only her identity, but her source of income, helping support her and her son. But it's been stolen. Used in a pro-Trump account on X, attracting nearly 30,000 followers in less than 6 months.
Here it is. Luna. Yeah, that's very crazy.
And when you see these views, you know, it's saying vote for Trump in 2024, what's your reaction?
To be honest, what was my reaction? That was my reaction.
The Everything app, dude. What do you mean? That's the Everything app, where everything happens.
Because I have nothing to do with the United States, with Trump, or the political things over there.
And if people following this account believe that this is you, what do you want to say to them?
That it's definitely not me. Definitely. It was never me and it will never be me. And they have to unfollow, please.
In fact, Debbie is not alone. In partnership with the Center for Information Resilience, CNN found nearly 60 fake Trump-supporting accounts. And from these, we identified nearly a dozen women, real women, from across Europe, from Denmark to the Netherlands and as far away as Russia, whose identities are being used in accounts telling voters, American voters, to vote for Trump in the upcoming US election. Let's take a look at some of these accounts. Like Alina, 33 and voting for Trump, but she's not. She's really Camilla from Denmark.
I think it's weird. Anything that can discriminate other people on my account, because it's my little universe. I don't think it's fair.
And this one, Eva. She even has a verified blue tick, which is supposed to weed out fake accounts.
You feel very taken advantage of, also because it's kind of my image. I don't want to think people think that I do what those profiles sometimes are promoting.
We ran the suspicious X photos through a reverse image search engine and found they were lifted from Instagram posts. Certain patterns emerged. The fake accounts repost each other. It's a sign of a coordinated campaign. Here, several of the fake accounts post the exact same wording. If you're voting for the man who survived an attempt, I want to follow you. It's another sign the accounts are linked. And that's not all. Some of the accounts manipulated the images of these women. Have a look at Debbie's post, the original on Instagram, and now the fake one on X. Her hat now reads, "Make America Great Again." Look at this t-shirt, before and then Trump 2024. For now, we don't know who is behind all these accounts. But the former US National Security Council spokeswoman, who also used to investigate fake accounts for Twitter, told us this.
I don't think it's unreasonable to ask questions about could there be a state actor involved. We know that there are multiple state actors who have been using social media to try to sow disinformation campaigns in the run-up to the 2024 election.
But regardless, the accounts are reaching influence.
It's going to be funny when they're like, it must be Russia, and then they find out, just like with Russiagate, that it's Israel again, and then they just like slowly but surely start dialing it back. That'll be really funny. You know, oh, Iran is doing this, Russia's doing this. And then it's like 75% of the time, it's just Israel.
Influential politicians.
Oh, yeah.
Doug Mastriano, a Republican state senator for Pennsylvania, follows Debbie's fake account. CNN contacted the senator about the account, but has not heard back. Back in Germany, Debbie is shocked and upset that her image is being used in this way. With President Trump now back on X and Elon Musk, the owner of X, throwing his weight behind him, fake pro-Trump content appears to be flourishing, silencing the real women affected. Once again, women's rights at the very heart of this presidential election.
Well, this investigation really showed that the process of verification, authentication of accounts on X has plummeted massively under Musk's leadership of the platform. And this really shows that the trust and safety team at X, the team exactly designed to catch this kind of content, has shrunk considerably. They're just not catching this kind of content, and the question is why? And look, we did put to X all of our findings. We sent them a full list of all of these accounts. We received no response. But we did notice that just in the last 24 hours or so before publishing, the majority of these accounts were taken down, which is rather interesting. And it's also worth noting that at this stage, there is no indication that the Trump campaign are involved. Back to you.
So revealing at so many levels. Katie Boclays, thank you so much for sharing that report.